produced from the grid in small storage assets, in hot water tanks, but also electric vehicles themselves can become storage assets. And then both buildings and transport can also consume flexibly electricity, clean electricity, in reaction to external prices or signals or incentives, in reaction, for example, to an abundance of variable renewables that could increase their consumption. And in case of congestion and stress, they should instead be able to reduce this consumption. All these three new evolution of end users' capabilities could integrate more variable renewables in end user sectors and in the systems and increase the efficiency of the local energy systems. Today's event is quite timely because it's going to take place before the proposal by the European Commission of the Fit for 55 package, a major package of 11 dossiers that the Commission indeed is going to present tomorrow, which hopefully will contribute in shaping policy measures, targets, and measures to keep these evolutions towards prosumer business models and giving power to the local. Please allow me to give a very simple house rule. Today's event is going to be quite interactive, and audiences can submit their questions by using the chat box. So please don't hesitate to use this feature. Today's event is going also to be recorded. So indeed, thanks for the participants that are joining live, but indeed we will have other opportunities to further promote today's event through other channels in the next months. And then allow me to outline very rapidly the agenda of today's webinar. We are starting with a keynote speech, and then we are going to have two panels, one with business representatives, really to present the smart solutions for an efficient integration of smart buildings and electric vehicles through clean electricity. And then another panel where indeed local authorities are going to present their best practices. Both these two sessions are going to be followed by a Q&A opportunity, so indeed don't hesitate to submit your question. And then we are going to have the closing remarks by the UK mission today. So let's not waste further time. And indeed, I would like indeed to simply remind and encourage you to go on smartEn website, www.smarten.eu, where you can find a publication presenting the value of flexible buildings, where indeed we are replying to several of the questions that will be asked during this webinar. And indeed, we will in this publication you can find how active buildings can flexibly adapt their energy consumption to external signals, what are the benefits of active buildings, how the system can cope with the increased electrification of both buildings and transport sectors at the same time, and how flexible buildings and electric vehicles can contribute to the 2050 carbon neutrality. So we are going to indeed discuss all these things during today's event, but this publication is indeed also a valuable tool for you to have further insights. The agenda indeed foresee the keynote speech by Markku Markkula. We are very pleased and honored to have indeed the president of the Helsinki region and also vice president of the Bureau of the Committee of the Region introducing today's webinar. And indeed, Mr. Markkula, you have the floor. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. Let me just highlight a bit about the background. So I'm here actually 100 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle in the area of my summer cottage, or our family summer cottage, and it's really hot here, close to 30 degrees today as well. So we really enjoy the summer and the fresh air what we are having. But here as well, we need to remember that the most of the year, so everything is covered by snow, and in the lakes you can see the background. So we have in April, May, even mid-May, we have 1 meter ice there. So it's ice fishing is a typical for here of that spring period. Now it's more really fishing around and enjoying the nice clean weather. But this reminds us that we need to be ready for tackling the climate issue. And in my statement here, so I want to be quite general, but focus on with a few of the key messages coming from the Committee of the Regions experience, but as well with my own background as the president of the Helsinki region, the Finnish capital region, and as the chair of the Espoo City Board. Espoo is the second largest city, and I've served there most of my life as the city councillor in parallel with my other political and professional activities. So everyone knows that climate change is already having a significant impact on our lives. Think about the heat waves, forest fires, our economies and our society. It's enough just to look at the news headlines this summer to see just how real these consequences are. The transport and building sectors are the 2 key areas where we need to address if we want to succeed in the battle against climate change. And as Michael, as you already in your introductory statement stressed the importance of the CREAT, so a systematic approach that is very crucial. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to open this important discussion and to listen to the ways that we can upgrade these 2 sectors for the betterment of our cities and the union as a whole. As a matter of fact, the Green Deal going local within the Committee of the Region, we have a special working group, Green Deal going local, and I'm one of those 13 members on that. And then on that, so we have highlighted these 2 sectors as the priority areas of the Green Deal, and also the ones where subnational government, so city, municipality, region level have the most impact. Let me here, as my first key message, stress the systematic approach to change. On a regional level, we need an effective multi-level governance systems. Not only that, when talking about multi-level, we think not only EU, national governments, regions and cities, but as well all the key actors on the local level. So that's governance, multi-level governance as well. So with a strong political commitment. For this multi-level governance systems, its systematic approach, we need effective public-private partnerships, people awareness and engagement, regional place-based innovation ecosystems, and what practically every region in EU has now, the smart specialization strategies to reach their targets. Here I stress that especially when we think about systematic change, so the smart specialization strategies, they have the focus areas defined, and especially now when tackling the climate or the whole 17 SDGs, so they are very crucial for especially in building the European partnerships. These what I mentioned, several ones, so these are the key success factors in the regional climate neutrality roadmaps. We stress heavily from the CR point, so that we need the regional roadmaps, but we need the city or municipality level roadmaps as well. Not only that the national governments define something. And when we talk about Green Deal going local, that means concrete action plans. So Green Deal going local action plans based on these roadmaps, what to do, who will do what, and so that's the real collaborative concept that we stress heavily. And cities, when I talk about cities, I mean all different size of municipalities, but it's not only the city administration and the political decision making, it's as well every citizen and the academia, the companies, industry, large and small. And when we look at this, so we need to get everyone to be part of this systematic change. Transport is responsible for around a quarter of the greenhouse gas emissions in the EU. It's important that we EU calculates all these. We have the measuring systems and we use the facts and figures so placed on, but it's not enough. So we need to move to the next level, and that is from benchmarking to bench learning and to bench acting. I don't know how the British take these words, but it's really concrete. So benchmark is not enough. We need bench learning and bench acting. So doing things together and learning from the others. It has a significant impact on the quality of life of EU citizens through air pollution, noise, suboptimal use of space and other factors. So urban planning, inventing the future, that is crucial for all of us at the local and regional level of policy making. At the same time, buildings are responsible for around 40% of the energy consumption within the EU, and inefficient policies within the sector can raise the dependency of the European countries and third country energy. Car traffic is especially important in cities and metropolitan areas, and it is increasingly leading to the rise of external costs relating to air pollution and loss of time, of course. These cities require heavy commuting of citizens into urban cores, highlighting the need for access to environmentally friendly and cost-effective transport. And this now is my second key message, is that the approach to traffic needs to be based on a systematic analyzing persons' daily travels. We can call these the travel chains, from where to people travel regularly. And when we have this information, so we can do more in providing services to these needs. People use normally in their travels walking, private cars, bicycles, public buses, rails, and so on, other forms of travel. City, especially in the metropolitan mobility systems, need to be operated as systems. So city transportation as a system. And this is what especially we do in the Helsinki metropolitan region. Our example is the municipalities together. They owned an operational unit to plan and organize the public transportation system, to have innovative public procurement on certain parts of the system. And so that, as an example, we just 2 years ago, we formed 1/4 of our Espoo city. Espoo has 300,000 inhabitants. 1/4 of the city public bus system in a competition procurement. We moved that to be based on the carbon neutral electric buses, and that has worked very effectively. It's a very important step forward. Public transportation is really crucial element here. Decarbonized public transport, smart mobility options such as high occupancy vehicles or bus rapid transit lanes, and access to railway transport should all become cornerstones of the urban planning. So on this travel chain, so we think how people, if they use part of that for their own private car, where to do the parking and how then to use railway or metro line as well. For this to become a reality, the transport sector needs to be treated as an integrated system. In cities and regions, mobility is the link between living, working, knowledge and free time. Truly environmentally friendly transport options are those that not only reduce emissions but save time and energy. Efficient transport policies need to take into account space, organization and traffic tariffs, but they also require a model shift and buy-in from the citizens. This is why the experience that local and regional authorities have in this field is indispensable. The mobility transition is happening in the cities, and we need to tap into this full potential to make this a reality. However, strong incentives are needed for the modality shift to happen, and this means that the EU should support sustainable mobility not only through a new investment in urban transport operations, but also by converting obsolete and inefficient solutions. So their direct funding through, for example, the Connecting Europe Facility, Modernization Fund, and the Recovery and Resilience Facility is an important aspect of making the transition a permanent and just one. So the use of the RRF today is very crucial on this managing the change. Now, my third key message is the importance of EU missions, because knowledge and best practices exchange is the key in promoting investment into research and new technology. And there we need to think about attracting private investments a lot as well. So this is extremely important, and that's why we, the CR, are influencing on the EU missions and negotiating how to attract the cities and regions to be part of implementing the missions. This is true for building sector as well, decarbonizing of residential heating and cooling, which is responsible for more than 80% of the overall energy consumption of buildings in the EU. It is a crucial goal, but not an easy one to reach. It stresses the importance of promoting the decarbonizing of the energy sources used and showcases how a holistic approach is necessary. Let me then come slowly to the end of my introductory keynote. So various sources of renewable energy available should be integrated systematically, and the energy needs to be generally affordable. Energy poverty has major social, economic and environmental consequences, and the vicious circle of energy poverty not only affects vulnerable households and individual citizens, but also businesses and sometimes small local authorities. Investing in the building sector as well as on the construction sector requires new innovations, new improvement, and that's why we need to invest heavily and to get the private companies to be part of this transformation. And that is my fourth keynote key message, is that the systemic renewal of energy system, and that as we do as a case in my own city, we have already a plan how in 5 years time we will get rid of using coal in our district heating system. Parallel measures are on process, taking all the potential elements to become carbon neutral, which we will be as a city already by 2030. So let me by this thank you for listening to this, and thank you once again to inviting me and the Committee of the Regions to contribute. And I will stay here and listen to the presentations and learn and take feedback to the Committee of the Regions, to all our members who represent cities and regions in all parts of Europe. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, President Markula, for your speech, and from this very nice and bucolic background. I don't pretend that indeed to summarize your speech, but indeed some key words is indeed a recommendation to have a system approach, full alignment, use a multi-level governance, profit of the public-private partnership, look and think and plan in the long terms through roadmaps with concrete actions, and then learn by doing with indeed sharing best practices and experiences. So thanks a lot for your contribution. And now indeed I would move to the next panel, where indeed we have three business representatives, and I would let them introduce themselves following this order. And the first one is Cristina Nata Yandiola from Power Ledger. Hello, Cristina.
Michael, yes, indeed. I'm the European representative of Power Ledger, taking care of our expansion in Europe and our different projects all over the European region, including UK. Yeah, point of contact for whatever companies would like to work with us in the region.
Thanks a lot, Cristina. The second panelist is Vincent Minier from Schneider Electric. Vincent.
Thanks, Michael. Hello, everyone. I am Vincent Minier, part of Schneider Electric, and I am for strategy leading many topics of energy transition and decarbonization, notably a specific focus on the built environment. And I am leading an initiative at the World Economic Forum, which is called Net Zero Carbon Cities, and including buildings. So this is one of the reasons of my presence here. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Vincent. And then, last but not least, Augustin Sanson from Voltalis.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Augustin Sanson from Voltalis, and I'm in charge of international business development for the company. So I would be the contact person as well. And I'm very happy to be here this morning as well.
Thanks a lot for everyone for joining our panel debate. And indeed, I would start with a question to Vincent. We moved from an approach focus on products, efficient or clean products. Then we moved throughout the years to a system approach, and now instead we are moving to a system of systems. So why is it important to go beyond a silos approach and look at the integration of smart buildings with electric vehicles in the local renewable-based energy system?
Well, basically, it's a question of benefits. In fact, having this approach is a multiple benefit approach. It's beneficial for the optimization of decarbonization. It's beneficial for the bill of the consumer, and it's beneficial for the system cost. So when you look, for example, at the bill of the consumer, when you do the math, if you make a smart charging at your building, if you have dynamic tariff in front of it, you can really reduce your electricity bill compared to a charging that would be on street or not optimized or with a flat tariff. Second, if you have local renewable, if you can make self-consumption, you can make use of this self-consumption and also reduce your basically overall cost of charging. So basically, these are two obvious benefits for the consumer. And when you look at the system cost, if you can manage dynamically the charging of your car in a building, and if you take, for example, a commercial and industrial building, if you look at the penetration rate, tomorrow we will have 15, 20, 30 charging points in a building of 500 to 1,000 persons. And if you don't have a local load management system, for example, this will generate some issues to the grid. So really having this kind of digital manageable system is beneficial for the system cost. But more than that, you can also manage all the distributed energy resources locally with the electrical vehicle, with a real local solar and load management system to really sell, to really provide a demand side flexibility to the grid. To do that, you need basically to manage the electrons, you need to manage the data, and you need to manage the dollars, which means you need digital and platforms to make everything work. So this is my major point here. There is absolutely a strong case for smart system integration, if I were to say in the European wording. Thank you.
Thanks, Vincent. But Augustin, indeed, the role of the demand side of end user sectors is really increasingly important. But just to make in very simple terms, explain to our audience what does it mean with the activation of demand side flexibility of buildings and electric vehicles through, for example, smart charging. Can you provide some examples of this important evolution?
Yes, Michael, absolutely. And I think you're very much right when you say activating the demand side flexibility of building. You know, it's a bit of a mouthful, and it makes it sound way more complicated than it really is for the citizen to participate. So I think it's very interesting to look at things from the point of view of an individual energy consumer. You know, someone has a heat pump, let's say, direct electric heating or electric charging point, and say, okay, I am a consumer, I want to participate, and what steps are there going to be? And the first question really is, can I participate with my existing appliances? You know, maybe I don't have a modern heat pump, maybe my charging point is not connected and everything. And yes, you can. And that is a very important first point, because the company that provides demand response is going to install and to maintain dedicated connected devices that will be plugged in to your appliances, and that will make it possible to remotely operate those appliances from the demand response operator control center. And when you have that, then what happens very concretely is the provider of demand response is going to optimize automatically for you the consumption of those appliances. And when they do so, they are going to always maintain the level of service, the level of comfort that you had before, so from those appliances. And what that would mean, for instance, for the heat pump or space heating in general, as it was mentioned, it's a very important consumption from building, is that they will do very short targeted interruptions of the heating, you know, 5-10 minutes, so that you don't have any temperature variations that can be felt by the residents of the building. And they will do that when the power system needs it. So they will provide services to the power system, but also optimize the consumption of the individual participants.
Thanks, Augustin, for this clear presentation. And Cristina, Power Ledger, indeed, your company has really relevant experience at global level to cooperate with different local authorities to promote the energy system integration of buildings and transports. Can you please briefly describe 3 examples of this cooperation with local authorities across the world and the contribution of Power Ledger in helping these local authorities?
Of course, Miguel. So, for example, one of our projects in the US is in partnership with the city of Santa Clara. The project is itself owned by the city council, and the project consisted of the integration of electric vehicles into the power system. As Augustin was explaining, this can have, like, for the infrastructure, many benefits, but also for the end consumer in order to adopt more electric vehicles. And what the project does is tracking the production and consumption of solar energy in a 6-story parking garage in the heart of the city. And it digitalizes the EV charging transactions and gives those renewable energy credits back to the city. Another example, for example, in India, we are working with the government of the state of Uttar Pradesh in order to integrate buildings into the power system. And what we're doing there is to promote the rooftop solar expansion in the state. We are integrating the buildings in a way that they can track their energy consumption and production, and also trade energy with each other, set pricing for selling and buying from each other, and that generates additional revenue streams for those households to monetize the energy assets that they've purchased, and it promotes more rooftop solar purchases in the States. It's very interesting because the government has amended the regulation to, for example, make a framework for enabling blockchain, which is an enabling tool for these kind of systems. And now the project is moving into a bigger commercial launch and creating a dominoes effect in other states in India, like Delhi and Karnataka. So it really has like an impact on the renewable spread within the country. And then another project integrating both sectors, transport and buildings, is the Fremantle Project in Australia. The project was purchased by the national government of Australia and is owned by the local government, by the city of Fremantle, who's been a partner of the project along with the Australian government Smart Cities initiative and many other like utility, DSO, other partners. And the project integrates both buildings, electric vehicle charging stations, and also community batteries. And it enables peer-to-peer energy trading among buildings, as I was explaining for the case of India, as well as also electric vehicle charging optimization, and the virtual power plant application as well, to take most advantage of the battery and the different assets in the system in order to provide flexibility to the grid, as well as a microgrid setup. Same case, integrating as many assets as possible in order to optimize the energy consumption within the city. And it's also working pretty well. It's led to many other projects in the country of other authorities that are taking the example and promoting it in their cities.
Thanks, Cristina, for this comprehensive overview of innovation at local level. Vincent, in your introductory presentation, you mentioned the work that you are doing within the World Economic Forum. Can you please explain us more about this initiative?
Sure. Yeah, basically, we have the vision of a smart sector integration at building level. This is one point. We have innovation everywhere. Now is how do we massify and make sure that local authorities have the tools to make it happen. So with the support of Schneider Electric and Enel, we are co-chairing this initiative. We launched this initiative at the World Economic Forum in January 2020, just before COVID. So not an easy task, but and the objective of this initiative is to decarbonize, to look at the decarbonization of cities at building level, mobility level, and grid level mostly first, and to provide operational solutions for the cities. And not only on the, when I say cities, it's about decarbonizing the city on a holistic view. If I take building, these are both residential and non-residential, public and private. So local authorities have the power to decarbonize all the buildings, for example, by proposing local policies or local innovation contests. If you look at, for example, Helsinki, they launched an innovation contest about decarbonization of heat, and it was quite successful, and it led to a quite nice solution of industrial heat pump for their central heating. If you look at New York, for example, they have a policy to decarbonize cities that will be put in place in 2024. That really, it's a kind of cap and fine policy, looking at decarbonization of all buildings, and they pay attention to low-income people. So it can also pay attention to low-income people. So this is the point. So the objective is to come up with a platform of solutions that will be delivered in September. So you will see that happen in September, and by February 2022, we will have a decision supporting tool that will be a simple assessment tool for the cities, for the energy manager in cities, or for building real estate portfolio manager. But it will be also with with solution guide that will tell what is the decarbonization potential and what are the real return on investment on these technologies. So if a city has a target of decarbonization, the city can start to work and define its decarbonization journey while taking into account the specifics of the city, which can be air pollution and so on and so on. And this, the platform of solution, and I finish, will be tailored by geographies. Meaning, if you want to decarbonize Sao Paulo, it's not the same that if you want to decarbonize Helsinki, basically.
Thanks, Vincent. You stressed several benefits of this approach, and I would like indeed to hear from Augustin also. What's your opinion of about these benefits from this integrated system approach?
Yes, absolutely. I would say the very nice thing about the technology that we are discussing, that we have benefits for both the participants and also the power system as a whole. And that is very important. So from the point of view of the participants, you have the optimization of your energy consumption. And it was mentioned that will have impact on your bill. So you'll have savings on your energy bill that will be automated from the demand response operator. You also have access usually to energy management system. So it's a smart energy app where you can go further, follow up your consumption, optimize it based on your own habits and needs to result in even more savings on your energy bills. And this is done, of course, while maintaining your level of comfort. And for instance, at Voltalis, we equip, install and operate the participant free of charge. So you do not have to pay to access all those benefits. And from the point of view of the power system, usually what happens when you have a high demand of power on the system is you have to go and fire the expensive and polluting power plants, gas, coal, and so on. And when you have many smart buildings that you can rely upon, what you do instead is you activate the smart buildings and you ask them to adjust, to optimize their consumption in real time so that you don't need to activate the polluting and expensive power plants. And this is also crucial and very important because when you have that, you have at least two benefits. The first one, because you don't activate the expensive power plants and power is cheaper for everyone. So for every energy consumer, not only the participants. And of course, you reduce drastically the carbon dioxide emissions because you don't burn gas, you don't burn fuel. And this is a very important step towards decarbonization, as was mentioned before.
Thanks a lot, Augustin. Indeed, you focus on the benefits for end users, for the power systems, and Christina, what are indeed the benefits instead for local authorities of this integrated approach?
Thanks, Michael. So apart from the benefits that Augustin was mentioning, from the perspective of local authorities, they can accelerate their smart city strategies by integrating buildings and transport, which means a more efficient management of energy production and consumption within the city, which brings along a twofold benefit. On one side, it optimizes that energy consumption and production in the city, leading to a reduction of the energy consumption of the energy losses, reducing the carbon footprint of that city, which leads to an acceleration of the city's decarbonization programs and also an acceleration towards their sustainability targets. But then on the other side, it also improves the welfare of the city inhabitants by letting them, on one hand, become more sustainable and have a sense of that sustainability participation that they're having. It improves, as we've seen in our project's engagement with the city, which is a benefit towards further initiatives in the future. And it also improves the sense of community that is also very important in order to maximize the outcome of this project and also future projects that are done in the municipality.
Thanks a lot to all the three business speakers for the very comprehensive and clear replies. So thanks a lot to Christina from Power Ledger, Vincent from Schneider Electric, and Augustin from Voltalis. Thanks a lot. And now we should move to example from local authorities. And I'm really pleased to give the floor to Andreas Jager from the Covenant of Mayors that is going to moderate the second session of today's webinar. Andreas, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Michael, and thank you for this very interesting first panel. Good morning to you all, and it is a great pleasure to be speaking to you today. My name is Andreas Jaeger. I am the co-coordinator of a European Covenant of Mayors coalition on sustainable buildings and neighborhoods. And it is my great honor and privilege to be introducing three esteemed panelists representing local governments who will be showcasing some really good practice on the ground examples in their respective localities that are related to energy systems integration and touch upon built environment as well as sustainable mobility issues. So to not waste much more time, just a quick note, there is a question and answer box. We are running a bit short on time, therefore we may not be able to answer all of your questions, but we will be sure to follow up on these and reach out to you via email. So please feel free to ask away. So without further ado, I am happy to be introducing the first speaker, which is Piero Pellizzaro, who is the Chief Sustainability Resilience Officer from the Municipality of Milan. Piero, please unmute yourself and switch on your camera. Also, please feel free to share your screen. This should be possible now.
Yes, so at the end I will not be using any slides. I would prefer to use the Go for speaking.
Fantastic. The floor is yours, Piero.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. And thanks to invite me over and to also give the chance to the city of Milan to share which is our experience on this domain. I mean, as the president of the SK region was quoting, climate change is not tomorrow, climate change is today. Over the last few weeks, we are facing massive important heat waves here down in Milan, as well as in the rest of Europe. And we got several issues related to managing the increase of the demands, the energy, the electricity demand, related to different reasons. Heat waves is affecting the functioning of the electricity grid, but at the same time is increasing as well the number of air conditioning, other IT system that is increasing the demand. So if you combine heat waves, the temperature, and the increase of the demand of electricity, not only for reasons as air conditioning, but for example, we have a plan here in Milan to go full electric, our public transport fleet before 2030. This is required almost 12 megawatts, extra megawatts of energy to be used. And we are foreseeing a 40% of increase of electricity demand before 2030 for mobility, for new electricity, but also for the changing of the climate. So to face this issue, the city of Milan, thanks also to the Energy Authority regulation, has a resilience plan for the managing of the electricity grid. The company in charge is Unareti, that is who is managing the grid down here. And since the last 3 years, they have started progressively to change their way of doing maintenance, the ordinary maintenance. So they are not only looking for extra investment that is required for the medium voltage and for other piece of the element, but also they are using the existing cost, the maintenance cost, looking at the perspective of climate change and the different increase of demand. So they are retrofitting the grid, doing with a focus on climate change. This comes in force legislation that makes mandatory to have this resilience plan for the company managing the grid for the Italian company, and then it's I've seen a positive impact on the city and positive impact on our function. On the other hand, the city as well. They also I've seen that there is colleagues from the RUGESID, but we also, thanks to Sharing Cities program, it's a EU-funded program, so the Lighthouse, the Smart Cities initiative of the European Commission. We were capable to start looking how better and differently managing our public residential building. So we have, in collaboration with Siemens, that was a partner of the project, we have integrated in our interoperability platform a sustainable energy management system that is helping us to manage the demands and the request of energy between different buildings, balancing, integrating also the renewable energy, so the PV system where it's stored in the building itself. So we are capable now more in integrating the energy production with the demand, but at the same time, we have linked the building and the system, the SEMS, with the meteorological station that is in the areas, that is also helping to align the consumption with the weather forecast and the temperature outside. So it's on the real time is helping to manage the demand of energy and so balancing the grid. But in the long term is also helping us to have a predictive maintenance. So how we can then better improve the capacity of our structures of the office to design the maintenance, also taking into consideration what are the different climatic situation. At the same time, thanks to this experience we have done in Chiaravalle, that is a district of Milan and Sharing Cities, we have scaled up this initiative, and we are now using. We were also having a new European program. It's an H2020 program named Energy to Peers, that is now looking how we can move from this kind of management to the energy community concept for the public buildings. But why we are looking at the energy community? Energy community, it's a way to promote the renewable energy. It's an opportunity to increase the inclusiveness of the population, because if you can consume your energy, you also increase your capacity and your pocket. But at the end is also the way how we can better create a small grid, smart grid and small grid, to try to reduce the energy waste on the big grid and working more locally. So having this self-consumption, it could help us in a community. It's helping us to reduce the blackout when there comes a peak of the demand. So energy community as a mitigation action, but also as an adaptation action to climate change. So it's a win-win solution that also could also be seen as an inclusive action to reduce the energy poverty. At the end, and then going forward to the end, the other topic is how we integrate also mobility, as we said. Nowadays, we have a lot of charging point that is on the street, on the road, but also now we need to get more inside the house and be more integrated in the system. So we are testing and working on increasing the presence of electric vehicles and charging point in the housing, so through the definition of the regulation for housing construction. But at the same time, we also we are now integrating on our public residential buildings, on our buildings, more PV system connecting directly to the grid and connected to the electricity mobility charging point. So all these things is giving us the opportunity to make our grid more reliable and more functioning in different way. One is increasing the capacity of the population to be prosumers, so they produce and they consume one way, and on the other end, there's also giving us the opportunity to increase the capacity of the grid to have energy locally produced, renewable energy locally produced, that is facing the demand of increase of electricity mobility. On a side is the public transport challenging plan, but on the other end, we need to reduce their pollution down here in Milan. And so what we need and what we have in charge, we have at the moment, we have a congestion charge in place that it will become more strictly and strictly. So only electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles will be allowed to enter in the city center. So if you want to couple these two needs, we need to integrate the system to get a better management of the grid and not to have too much interruption over the summer and over the rest of the year. So thank you very much, Andreas, for your time.
Thank you, Piero. This was a really comprehensive overview of the actions in Milan, and I'm sure there's a lot of follow-up questions to this as well. Perhaps we will find the time to also touch on some of these later. Thank you again, Piero. Yeah, please join us again for the question and answers after this presentation segment. So without further ado, I am very happy to be introducing the next speaker, which will be David Hibbert, who is Technical Superintendent at Marine Services in Orkney Islands Council. David Hibbert, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and it's excellent to be here. Yeah, it's just a very, very brief overview of where we are. We're a bunch of small islands, 70 small islands off the top of Scotland, between the North Sea and the Atlantic Ocean, and strategically placed between one of the main shipping routes. Can we just move to the next slide, please? Yeah. Very, very quickly, there's quite a big claim on that slide. Why Orkney's smart green energy islands? Now, we've been in energy management for since the 1980s, when the first wind turbines were built up in the Orkney Islands. For the commercial megawatt scale ones were up in an area called Burger Hill in one of our counties. So since then, wind has been developing, and then a lot of the other challenges around that have shown up. So there's a number of different vectors. There's how the grid has managed renewables and all the factors around that, and what has spun out of that. Some of the equipment you see in the background is part of what we have on site at the moment. I'll touch on some of the other factors as we go through. One of the big ones is active network management, which is pioneered here, and that's how you control. The grid controls how much renewables comes onto it, so it stops itself being overloaded. That leads to a thing called curtailment, which is when renewables, windmill sites are told to switch off. Switching off is obviously not it's a very bad business case for a renewable company who's got an investment there, if they're told to shut down because the grid cannot take their electricity any longer. This leads on to a hydrogen systems which we developed, which I'll touch on after the next few slides. Can we move on to the next one now? Okay, here is a quick overview of what the island is using energy-wise. There's different types. Electricity, oils, coal is even being used in some areas at the moment. And the idea here is we need to get more electricity used into some of the other sectors, so that we can integrate renewables into that more rapidly and reduce the carbon footprint of the area. So it's looking at the transport. It's the biggest segment of all of that oil petroleum products box you see on that slide there. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. Here we have quite a nice overview of where we've become and how we got there. As I was mentioning, Orkney generates more renewable energy than it can use. At the moment, we are generating about 120% of our electricity needs. So that 20% needs to be moved off the island elsewhere. We've become, or it's the home to the European Marine Energy Centre, which is based in the town of Stromness, which tests wave and tidal devices. They've had some issues integrating their energy outputs into the system. Yeah, and as a spin out of that, that's been demonstrating a number of flagship projects. The biggest one being a tidal device, which has moved on to commercial scale. It's ready for deployment, a floating machine, and there's all sorts of machines go through that site every year. Yeah, as I mentioned, this grid curtailment issue, it has become it's become a mother of invention. That's something we've just had to deal with. A lot of the communities ended up building wind turbines so they can put money into their community. But when they're told to switch off because there's too much energy in the system, we had to innovate out of that. It's another bullet point. Yeah, the next thing is we own and operate a number of our local transport services. So the biggest thing I was talking about earlier on was transport. The biggest item in transport is our ferry services. So we service 13 islands. We have a population of 22,000, so you can see how that multiplies into the number of journeys that are required per year. 13 islands, yeah, that results in 74 different route combinations, with 9 vessels on that, over 300,000 passengers a year, which is probably surprising, but cities that are dealing with commuter, it's probably not a surprise, and the number of commercials and cars that go around that. These ferries are the only means of getting to and from the islands. So they carry everything, the livestock, the cargoes, the passengers, the tourist industries that goes out to there. And to run that service is around 3 million litres of fuel a year plus electricity, which we plug the ships in at night. We also operate air services to the far out islands with a small aircraft, which I'll touch on the next slide if we can move on to that. Okay. What we're seeing here is Orkney by default has become a knowledge cluster from the number of projects, notwithstanding the ones in energy, of which I mentioned earlier. These are the ones that have become of the involving hydrogen. You can see the list on the box on the top left there. It goes from surf and turf, which in the previous slide was equipment showing up for powering, converting hydrogen back into electricity to power ships, shore power. We're transporting hydrogen, we're using it in van fleet, we're using it for heating buildings. And all of that has come out of curtailment. If we didn't have to curtail our production, that probably wouldn't have happened. So all of this innovation has come out of that. Yeah, and the other ones, the High Seas 3 is a large hydrogen ferry, which is in design at the moment, which will be a fuel cell vessel run to the island of Shapansea, which you can see on the slide that's there. Also the High Dime is a predecessor to that's using the existing vessel in combustion. I mentioned there was an air fleet. There's a High Flyer, it's the hydrogen aircraft. We have the hydrogen refueling rig is presently in Orkney. The aircraft's still in test. And there's Project Reflex now. It's a fairly major integration of a number of different other features. It's all about how you integrate electricity into transport, heating, and electricity demand for industrial purposes, and how you manage your network and your grid. It's otherwise known as demand side management. So we have talked about curtailment, which is production side management. So we have demand side management through Reflex, and how you can control when consumers have their electricity and how it be to make that non-disruptive. So we're controlling car chargers, we're controlling heating systems for houses, so that's hot water storage heating, and pricing different electricity use at different times of the day just to control the demand. That's a freestanding presentation on its own. That's currently running. It's just starting up now. Out with this, we have other commercial projects going on, the production of ammonia from hydrogen, and some of the distilleries are also looking at using renewable fuels for making their spirits. You might know all of these projects are scalable. Some of them have got sister projects. The one big hit, which is part of the Hydrogen Valleys group, is also involved in Project Haven in the north of Holland. Next slide, please. Yeah, so some of the issues that we've had operating all of these projects has come down to the amount of people we can get and the quality and the necessary skills they have and how available they are. So I've made a number of bullet points here to say all around how you get the necessary skills, and then so it gives you the safety and the reliability. We must have reliability. These are lifeline services. They must be assured they operate the maximum amount of time, and they must be compliant to international and national legislation. This has given us a number of challenges over all of the projects. The background of that slide there is the marine training. We believe we have the first marine trained compressed hydrogen crew in the world. The photographs there are going through the training course. There's a fire training element and the fuel handling and the certificate underwritten by Maritime Coast Guard Agency on the left there. People and skills have become one of the key points we've found out of that. Can we move on to the next one, please? Yeah, so the key learning points we found, or the bottom line of all of this number of years we've been into these between the demand side, the production side, the hydrogen, all of this has come out of the first things we need to find is you get to your approvals. The marine side has been very challenging on marine side. The political buy-in, some of the photograph at the bottom shows the Prime Minister on a recent visit at Orkney to the EMEC Centre. We've got the Royal on the top photograph there with Prince William and Kate on the top. That's a visit in the fuel cell site at Kirkwall Harbour. We also find that transport, we need to get into transport. That's where the big volumes are of energy. You can see that from the scalable amount of operations we have to carry out to service what is a relatively low population. All of that scales up several times when you obviously go to large cities and large population areas. As I mentioned, the supply and demand balancing, how renewables is one of those things that you don't put in a big pile. It's there, and you have to utilize it when it's available. When the sun shines, you make it solar, and when the wind blows and the tide flows, that's when you must use it, and you must utilize that as best possible way. So that is, you have to demand what you're going to do with this energy when you have it. It's difficult to store. So the market readiness I mentioned as well. That what technology is there and how can you use it. What's available. As I mentioned, education and training is a very major point for us, and getting the necessary people to the sites when you require them to make sure you have that reliability. The fuels you may choose there is a number out there. I don't think there's going to be a single one. We're using hydrogen at the moment. I think there'll be other spin-offs. But the final line is really is if you're using renewables, you have to be smart. It's not simple. You have to be integrated, and it has to drive your local policies once you decide what you're going to do with it. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, David, for this really inspirational presentation. And the Orkney Islands are very well known for being such an innovation hub in the renewable energy space. So I think there's a lot to gain from us hearing how this innovation is put into practice, and this will be of high relevance to other regions that are beginning their journey to explore this. So this is really fantastic insights you've provided. So thank you very much for this. And also we will be coming back to you shortly with some questions. So thank you. And now we come to the final presentation of this speaking segment, which is coming from the city of Rotterdam and highlighting a specific district level sustainability transformation. It is my great honor to be introducing to you Caitlin van den Berge. Caitlin, welcome to today's session, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Andreas, for inviting me to tell a bit about the strategic implementation plans of Rotterdam, and especially the area on the south bank of Rotterdam, in the heart of South, we call it. It's a bit of a deprived area in Rotterdam, and for a long time, not a lot of development was taking place here. This area you see here in the south of Rotterdam is given into a public-private partnership, the whole area, to redevelop and add some more quality to this area the coming next 20 years. For the total area, there is a budget of 500 million euros. Of which 22 million is allocated to sustainable development here. And if you go to the next slide. Thank you. Then you can see the parts of the area that are either revitalized or renovated, or the areas that are newly being developed, so newly being built. The buildings that we could maintain, but give another program, we maintained, so we wouldn't have a loss of loads of material, and the material that had to be demolished, we reuse within this area. If we look at this area more in detail, before we go to the next slide, I would like to give some numbers. We added to this area 12,000 square meters of PV panels. That was the initial program, but in the meantime, it catched us a bit faster. So at the moment, we have 20,000 square meters of PV panels installed in this area. The public transport hub, which is situated here, is the second largest public transport hub in the Netherlands, and we have 250 electric buses driving every day through this area, about 4,000 movements. And these buses are charged by 12 fast chargers. So I will go into that a bit later. There are 55 smart lighting poles equipped with telemanagement and LED lights. We have some 1,200 tons of reductions of CO2 emissions, but that's only due to the PV panels. So that's not due to a smart thermal grid or a smart electrical grid or the electrical buses. Now we can, these are the areas or the buildings that are either be renovated or are newly built. And you see a large part of the Ahoy area, which was host of the Eurovision Song Festival. So with the renovation of Ahoy, we also implemented loads of sustainable measurements. Next slide, please. I move into the energy solutions, which is the dominant program in this area. And here you see a bit more of the details about the program. But the biggest new technology we implement here is a smart thermal grid and a smart electrical grid, where the PV panels are being used directly by the smart charging stations or the lighting, and where the thermal grid is mainly implemented around the Ahoy area and the newly built cinema and hotel and a convention center. Back to the PV panels, we were planning, or our first ideas were to use it directly with the DC cable into the fast chargers and the lighting, and the chargers for electrical transport. But due to legal regulations, this was not possible, so we couldn't test that here. But for the thermal grid, we have less strict regulations, so we could experiment here a bit more. If you go to the next slide, please. Then you can see, one slide back, then you can see that we took off the whole area of Ahoy off the gas. In the Netherlands, the gas is used as the main energy supply. But the whole area of Ahoy is off the gas and is being heated and cooled down by the smart thermal grid, by the extensive heat of the different holes of Ahoy, but also by natural sources. So it's a combination of waste recovery, energy from wastewater, energy from asphalt, pavement area, and energy from surface water. And here we heat the area with low temperature heating, and we cool it with high temperature cooling. Okay, and then the next slide, we move on to the more public transport hub. Yeah, it's the public transport hub is a combination of renovating the area that was already there, so the metro station and the bus station, but also a new part is added, and there we have these fast chargers, we have storage, and we have solar panels, and we try to combine it all in this to use it directly. I think that was mainly the story about Rotterdam. Let me see if I, no, that's about it. Connected to this, oh yeah, thank you. Connected to this is a whole social program where we create jobs within the neighborhood for the entertainment industry, but also for the technical jobs, because this heart of South is not the only area we are upgrading, it's the whole part of South, and we try to use local workforce from the south of Rotterdam. There are several technical schools in this area and universities which provide us, or the companies that work here, with manpower. And one thing we did as well within the Readiness program, but also for the whole city of Rotterdam, is we made a digital twin. And within this digital twin, it's at the moment it's municipality owned, and we make use of all open data sources. So we use energy consumption by the different, not households, but different building blocks. We test all the energy solutions by monitoring them on the Heart of South and Rotterdam for Ahoy, so we can read the hourly energy use by this area. And we also do the smart waste. That was a test program within the Readiness area and project, and we also feed in the data of all the smart waste containers in the digital twin. But this program was by, I think by lack of time, it was not only tested, but as soon as it was tested within the Readiness, it already got upscaled to the whole city of Rotterdam. So it's now being implemented throughout the whole city. But here you see that we use the digital twin for the for either building development or public transport, traffic controls, smart waste, energy usage, etc. I think that was the last slide. Yeah, Here you see an image of Rotterdam, the heart of South, the central area. At the moment, this is a rendering, but at the moment it also looks like this. So it's from a heavily used public transport hub. It's now a public area for without buses, without any cars. It's just for the pedestrians. Thank you, Andreas.
No, thank you, Caitlin. This is really a fantastic case study to be presenting, and the city of Rotterdam being a leader in smart city solutions. I think there's a lot for us to gain from this example, and also in light of the fact that neighborhood and district level approaches are being increasingly recognized as having so much potential to create these transformations. This is really very valuable. So thank you again. And yeah, if I may ask all the speakers from this session to switch on their cameras, and we will have a very quick fire round of questions. We don't have much time, but perhaps you can all give some quick answers. Firstly, we have received one question from Roland, who is asking about local authorities and energy service providers, how they work together to decarbonize the energy system. And I think this question applies to every single local government. So I would be very interested to hear where you see opportunities, but also challenges in terms of working together with energy service providers. So this question goes to everyone, but specifically, just quickly coming back to Caitlin, what kind of specific element of ruggedized do you feel is something that other local authorities could easily replicate, or something that you are particularly proud of and feel should be done everywhere?
Well, that are two different things. I'm specifically proud of the smart thermal grid, but I wouldn't recommend it as an easy catch. I think the easy catch is in insulate and building monitoring and usage. I think that's the easiest catch, and the smart waste program that are easy catches because it's easily implemented, and with electrical vehicles as well, you have your savage on CO2 emissions is easily done. But if you could, if you're the companionship with the energy providers to realize electrical grids, either thermal or electrical, I think that would be also a good thing. Yeah, it would save a lot of energy, but it's hard work. It takes time. It's a lot of you have to have a lot of effort, and there you see a clash between political goals and business goals. That's two totally different things that don't work together. So I would go for the easy catch.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And moving on, also keeping that replication angle, moving to the islands of Orkney, we have great innovation happening. Orkney is also blessed with a huge amount of renewable energy generation potential. Some local authorities that might just be starting the journey of exploring how to become energy autonomous based on renewable energies. Where do you feel that where might be a good starting point? What could be replicated from the myriad of solutions that you have been introducing today, David?
I think what it comes down to is what your relationship and what availability you have with your distribution network operator from your electricity side and your national grid who supplies them, and what capacity they have and what availability they have to give you amounts of electricity when you want it. And if they can't, then you have to be smart. That's the point where you need to start looking at your demand side management, where you can use electricity when it's required or manage when it is required. And also using combined heating power, finding one of those in Reflex and with the surf and turf, that we can take the plant efficiencies of hydrogen up to 90% if you can use combined heat and power, rather than wasting your heat resource from your fuel cell units.
Indeed, great. And this also connects to Roland's question in terms of the energy service providers. Is there further detail you would like to give on that front in terms of the challenges or synergies and opportunities you have found in your local context? I think we've lost David. I'm not sure whether he can hear us right now. Right, then I will move on to Piero, and definitely not last, but well, not least rather. Thanks again for the fantastic presentation. And what, on the one hand, you already touched upon the topic of resilience, which is high on Milan's political agenda. What the kind of connections to energy systems integrations are. If you would like to elaborate on that point a little further, I would be very interested to hear from your perspective what kind of barriers and support needs you see in neighborhood level transformation approaches in your context, but perhaps also in general.
Well, the resilience and the smartness of the energy infrastructure is now becoming more essential. As I said, it's an increase of demand of energy because that is where we are going, and going more to electricity. This country, Italy, is also based, as heating system was based on gas, and now it's changing. It's changing also because there is different temperature. Basically, there is less cold and more high temperature, so you go more for electricity. On the other end, we also need more and more integration of resilience with, specifically in Milan, with the water and the underground water with the heating pump system. This is because, differently from the other part of Europe, we are not suffering from water scarcity, but we have too much water, and it is creating, combined to the other impact of climate change, so an extreme weather event. You need to use water as an energy sources on an energy storage, because then it's something to also start looking how we use water in cities. I was in Florence, and I was testing how to use water system to storage as well energy and transformation. And then in the longer term, there will be hydrogen as also something that we need to look as an option. So resilience in this concept is not to work on pillars, but is working integrated matter between water, between energy, electricity, mobility, demand and consumption. Is part of what we have to look at. And then we go down to the district, that is one of the key elements in general. When we look at district, we need to look at the community. So we need to look to get more when the existing community are already there, are already ongoing. There is religious and non-religious community, for example, and now we can work with this to make this happen, because at the end, we are all speaking about infrastructures, hard infrastructures, but then there is the soft infrastructure, there is the population. They need to be intelligent and smart to be able to use and to perceive this integration. And on the other end, we need also a more smart community approach in terms of integration of the different needs we have at the district level. So what could be necessary for us in general is to get in somehow, as a metropolitan area, let me say, more access to the structural funding directly, because it could be helpful for us as a metropolitan area to work more on let's say, capacity building of the public servant and the environment, but as well we can work more on the capacity building of the population, in not only the one that is consuming, but also the one that are promoting and the one that have a knowledge of what is necessary to make this happen.
Great. Thank you so much, Piero. And thank you all of you for really, you know, providing these insights from on the ground. It's really valuable, and I think our audience will also have drawn a lot of inspiration from your presentations, as well as your positions on the questions that I've just posed. So really fantastic. I'm feeling very inspired. I hope audiences as well. So with that, I would like to close the second panel or session of today and hand over to Will McFarlane, who is the Director of Economics and Finance from the UK mission in the European Union. Will, thank you for joining us today, and the floor is yours to provide some closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Andreas. It is a real pleasure for the UK mission to the EU here in Brussels, and the UK as partners in leading and delivering COP26 with Italy to be participating in this event. And it is a real privilege to be asked to give some closing remarks. I would like to start by thanking you, Andreas, Michael, Marku, and the members of both panels for the very engaging session and the debate that we've had, which I thought flowed brilliantly. It also in many ways showed some of the diversity of thought and experience that we have on these issues across the European continent, across cities, the countryside and islands in the Orkneys, national and subnational government, industry and civil society. And it is really crucial that we galvanize all of these perspectives, all of these diversity of thought and experience in developing solutions that our communities, our cities, nations and continent needs to the energy and climate challenges that we face. And this is exactly the objective that the UK sets ourselves for the COP summit in Glasgow later this year. Notwithstanding the challenge of the pandemic, it is why we are so focused to bring as many stakeholders to the COP as possible, safely, and stakeholders from all levels. The membership of the UNFCCC might be national or multinational, but the solutions will not only be national, but in cities, with industry and with our citizens. And I also mention diversity because it is a pledge of the UK mission to the EU to host and participate in inclusive events, both in person and virtually as we are today, as we strive for equality of representation. And I'm really pleased to see some of that diversity represented today, but also to express our pledge, as I do in events we participate in, such as this, as a reminder of the importance of ensuring representation on the platforms that we all host together. To move briefly to today's inspiring discussion, as you said, Andreas, it is clear that great progress has been made in the area of smart sector integration. And as we have heard this morning, there are some truly innovative projects being carried out in cities and regions across Europe that are paving the way for further developments still. It is clear still, however, that there's more work to do if we are truly to harness the potential of renewable electricity, building and industrial sectors to power our building and industrial sectors and our transport sector, as we heard. And as Marku, I thought, powerfully said at the beginning, this is not simply just about benchmarking ourselves, but setting new benchmarks, challenging each other and as he so nicely put it, bench learning from one another and bench acting. In the United Kingdom, we want to work with partners to do just this. The UK government and Ofgem, our regulator, are preparing to pave the way domestically for this transition with their soon to be published Smart Systems and Flexibility Plan and the UK's first energy digitalisation strategy. These publications will set out a programme of work for driving flexibility across our energy storage, interconnection, flexible heating, across our energy system. And also smart electric vehicle charging. All of these are essential for decarbonising our power, heat and transport sectors. But in order to do that and meet our collective climate goals and reduce emissions to net zero by 2050, we will also have to work together. And this year, the UK government, along with our Italian partners, will lead discussions with global partners to make progress on combating climate change at the pre-COP in COP. That's at the pre-COP in Milan, from where it was so good to hear from Piero, and ultimately COP26 in Glasgow. While the eyes of the world will be on what we and the EU and many nation states around the world will agree, it will of course be cities and urban spaces and other areas of our society where the effects of energy transition will be seen, heard and felt. And as part of our COP26 zero emission vehicles campaign, we want to double the pace of the transition to a decarbonised road transport system. This will entail significant rollout of new electric cars. Improving sector integration will be crucial to delivering on this objective, which is why discussions such as these today are so important. There is no doubt by working together, pioneering cities can achieve more than they can alone. And I hope that regular events such as this one can continue to work alongside the global set-piece events such as COP to keep focus on our progress towards the cleaner, greener world we all want to see. I'd like to thank all participants today again for their contribution and leadership on this agenda and the really enjoyable discussion that we've listened to. And I'd like to thank everyone that's joined the discussion as well. I hope you've taken in and learned as much as I have from it. I will finish by urging us to continue to work on these challenging but vital transformations of our societies together, and certainly from the UK mission and the UK government, we look forward to doing so. Thank you so much.
And thanks a lot, Will, for your concluding remarks. Thanks a lot also to Andreas. In this final slide, you can find our contact details if you wanted to know more about us and engage in our activities. I think that it has been a really inspiring, insightful, and also a bench learning exercise. So thanks a lot for your attention, and have a nice continuation of the day. Bye.